Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that you won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino. How be you?
Oh, it is a good day. And guess what?
You're going to tell me.
We got a giveaway.
Ooh,
how about that, huh? Yeah,
nice.
Our good buddies over there at GHS, they sent us some stuff. And I said, you know what? Let's give this stuff away. So we got some T-shirts, we've got some strings, we've even got a guitar strap, and we've got a bunch of stickers. But we also have something from Alex Calise and John Moody, who are both associated deeply with GHS.
Right.
So I came up with something. I thought about it, and I was like, what could I come up with that somebody could, and we're going to do this through email, and we're going to be above board here, okay? So whoever emails me the correct answer first is the person that's going to get it. We're going to give away a T-shirt, okay? A nice GHS T-shirt.
Cool.
And we don't have a ton of them, so I think they're all large. I have to look. But regardless, you're getting a T-shirt from GHS. And I thought about it, and I thought, what could I come up with, right? You know, I'm like, oh, God, we've 200 and some odd episodes. We've interviewed everybody, you know.
So what'd you come up with?
So what I came up with is there's a reason that we changed our intro music. And we changed it early on. We only got X amount of episodes in, and we had to change it. And there was a reason that we had to change it. So, and I disclosed this in some of the early episodes after we had to change it. So the first person to tell us why we had to change it, we'll send you out a T-shirt from GHS and our good friends over there.
That might be a slightly difficult question. We'll see.
Yeah, because there is a reason.
There is a reason.
Yeah. So, you know, definitely go check out ghstrings.com. I mean, those guys over there, they're doing a great job. And the thing that I like about them the most, not just because they're, you know, a string company or whatever, those guys put a lot of time and effort into upcoming artists.
Right.
And they really believe in those artists. They kind of get behind them. And that's a big deal, especially for some of the guys that may be listening to this show.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and GHS has been around for a long time.
Yeah, man.
Very well established company.
Yeah.
You know, they could easily tout any national artists that they wanted to.
Warren Haynes and Derek Trucks. There you go.
Sure, but I mean, you know, to look at and to get behind to whatever degree some local and upcoming. I mean, that's great. Those are the people that actually, you know, need to be talked about and found out about. Sure. And those guys, you know, are kind enough to do it. So
yeah, man.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. And first person with that answer, you're going to get a T-shirt.
There you go.
There you go. And, you know, speaking of getting to us, I'm digging it. You guys are sending us a bunch of love, and that's cool. And if you send some hate, that's cool too. You know, whatever.
It's all right. It's all
good.
And,
you know, we cannot do this thing without you guys.
That's right. You, your friends, your neighbors, anybody, you know, anybody that is in the music field or is even just interested in the music field. Maybe they don't play, or maybe just honestly, just like some good stories, man.
Hell yeah.
You know, they're the stories that we have from our guests, whether you're into music or not. They're just really good stories. They're really good history, you know, and they're entertaining. And, you know, you got a suck-ass drive to work or something.
You can hear my drone.
It's great company. It's great company. So Tell your friends, man.
That's right. And when you do tell your friends, because there's other guys out there that want to say that they've heard it first, or they telling you first. That's not true. We're telling you first.
That's right.
Just make sure that, you say, hey, man, look, yeah, there's this other guy that told you that, but no. I heard it over there.
Well, whether you've heard of the guest or not, you might not be at the first time you're hearing the guest, but it might be.
Well, we dig deep,
Jeff. But if not, there's always something in the episode that you're probably going to hear first.
That's right. And we dig deep, though. We get guys that you don't, you're like,
right.
Who is that? Yeah. Well, guess what?
Well,
that guy's a human.
Now you know the history behind it.
You're damn right.
And before we bring you our guest this week, I just want to send a little shout out and get well to our friend Joe Macri, original bass player from Crack the Sky.
Oh no! What's going on with Joe?
Yeah, he was jogging the other day,
and
Pitbull didn't want to let go.
Holy hell!
Pitbull got him. Left hand, arm, everything, like a bunch of stitches. He's still going to be able to play. It's going to take a while.
Unreal.
So we just want to send out our best and well wishes and healing power and whatever you can to our good friend Joe Macri.
Yeah, look, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I went to Home Depot 3 times yesterday, and 3 times 13 dogs. What the hell's going on? I don't understand what's going on. It makes no sense.
And I don't want to put a bad face on pit bulls, and I know some people will.
No, because I want to put a bad face on that goddamn owner that let that pit bull bite him.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It wasn't like Joe was running in their yard.
Exactly. I'm sure he was running on public land.
Yeah. Well, he might have been running through the Home Depot for all I know.
But, yeah, that could be.
I thought I was at PetSmart for some reason. I was like, what the hell is going on here? It's kind of crazy. I don't understand. They're on the planes. They're everywhere now. Got
to run for the mace.
I mean, Christ, mailman probably don't even want to go outside anymore. They're like, I'm at the 7-Eleven. There's 5 dogs in here.
Come out and get your own mail. So, all right. So get well soon, Joe.
Yes,
we
sir.
love you.
I'm sorry.
We're sending you healing power, man.
Yeah,
so
man.
we're gonna take a break here for a pause for the cause and come back with our guest of the week. Not a guitarist or a manufacturer, but actually a drummer. Although, does play other instruments, but right now he does fill the drum throne.
Yes, he does.
For the band Wayland. So we're gonna come back with our guest of the week and funny guest with a notable dad.
Yeah, man.
that we found out.
Yes,
so anyway, we'll be right back with the guest of the week, drummer for Wayland, Mr. Nigel Dupree.
Hey guys, this is Alex Calise of Bat Farm and A&R of GHS Strings, and you are listening to Amps and Axes.
Okay, and we are back as promised with our guest of the week, drummer. I guess I don't know. Is that considered an axe? I don't know. It's an instrument, so we'll put that under the the large umbrella of axes. So we are back with our guest of the week, Mr. Nigel Dupree, drummer for the band Wayland. Nigel, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good, man. Out here on the road and getting ready to play in Omaha, Nebraska tomorrow.
Omaha, very nice. Mm-hmm. You guys on the road a lot?
We do. We do a good bit of touring. The band, I just joined a year and a half ago, and the band has always had a reputation of hitting the road hard and heavy. And I actually have got the sweet end of the deal. I joined during the completion of the last record, Rinse and Repeat, that came out in September, and I'm a part of the new one coming up. So we've actually had the most time off.
Wow!
But we've been yeah, it's really funny. It's like I got into a band that tours heavy, and then I get all the sweet 6 months of releasing a record and doing marketing stuff, and then pre-production. So it's just been really cool and great. But we've been hitting it hard for the summer. We just did Rocklahoma, and
nice.
And then we headed and then we did some nice little out west dates, and then we're headed back east now.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, it's nice to be able to slowly break into a band because, we've had so many stories. It's like, they asked me to join because, the other guy couldn't do it anymore or something happened. And, so I said, yeah, sure. When do I need to be there? Tomorrow. And you got to know 40 songs, so it's
it wasn't too far from that. But, my interesting history with the band is I came into the band as a guitar tech. and through some random jamming and hanging out late night, we decided that if I wasn't tuning during some songs, I was going to play some rhythm. So we threw up a little combo, and I would just play some rhythms off to the side, in between little things here and there.
Utility kind of guy.
Yeah. And then it got to the point where I actually was on stage and I was playing keys and singing and guitar and all that kind of stuff. And that lasted about 3-4 months. And then the drummer had some personal things come up and that he wanted to tend to. And I was like, hey, I can play drums. Can I try this? And they were like, are you serious? Like, yeah, let's go for it. So that's cool. So we've incorporated even, in the drum world that I'm in, I still I play mandolin in a couple parts of the show, and then on the acoustic set, sometimes I'll have a 12-string or play just play whatever's needed for the acoustic setup that we're doing. So I still handle an axe here and there, but my full-time duties have definitely switched over to the skins.
Wow, that's pretty good, man.
Yeah, I mean, starting out as a guitar tech, obviously a guitar player, and then, mandolin and, I can do keys here. And it's like, oh, you need a drummer? Yeah, I'm that guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun, man. I grew up, I had the privilege of growing up around music. And so I even toured straight out of high school as a guitar player and a singer.
And you know what? That's where we usually go with this. I usually go and we take a trip in the Wayback Machine and find out where our guest was born and raised and how they got into it. So that's a good segue into what where I usually take our guests. So let's get a little history on where Mr. Nigel Dupree was born and raised and how you wound up getting into music.
Yeah, I born and raised in Kennesaw, Georgia. That's still home for me. And I had instruments in my face from day one. My dad plays, and he's in the industry, and through that, I got addicted to being around rock and roll. And
you said he's in the industry.
Yeah, he's the singer in the group Jackal, and aside from wielding a chainsaw and screaming bloody hell, he's actually he opened up a whole world to me because we have a studio at the house.
Your dad is Jesse James Dupree.
Jesse James.
Yeah.
Are you shitting us?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
No, that's my old man.
That is cool as hell.
Yeah, it definitely creates an interesting childhood.
Well, that might be the understatement of the week there, and there have been a few. Wow,
that is so cool, man. So your dad is the singer of Jackal.
Yeah, and like I was saying, aside from him doing that it got him into a whole nother world where he was actually managing the label for Jude and Kiefer, that Kiefer Sutherland, the actor, and Jude Cole, producer songwriter, that signed Wayland. So that takes you to the first time that I met the guys in Wayland, because they were a new developing act under Kiefer's thing.
And I was, let's go back a minute. Let's go back a minute to the childhood thing. You're surrounded by music and instruments and things. What was the first instrument you picked up?
It actually was the drums. I got a kit at age 5, and I had, there was guitars laying around, of course, but I didn't take interest and responsibly start learning how to play until I was probably 10 or 11. And then the punk pop movement hit me like a ton of bricks, and I had to immediately learn how to play every riff as fast as I could. And then it started from there.
That's pretty cool. Play every lick as fast as you could. Drums or guitar were you alluding to?
Guitar, yeah. When I was about 10 or 11, I thought, I heard Green Day and Blink for the first time, and I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to just pound away on it. So that got me into it, and then I fell in love with the blues. And I everything from the classics and the greats to ZZ Top and then into the Black Crowes, and it's just been a slow musical journey for myself. I love absorbing anything and everything I can.
Jeff?
Yeah.
How much were you hoping he was going to say the chainsaw?
I played it. I bit my tongue. I might have asked the question later, but
that's funny. No, I won't go too far off in a story, but long story short, my dad got in a freak little motorcycle accident, and his left arm was in a cast. He was a little banged up, but he didn't want to cancel some upcoming dates. And it ended up being about a year almost that I got to actually play guitar and chainsaw in Jackal. So that was cool. That was a pretty fun year. Even though the accident was really scary, it ended up giving me like the coolest 8 to 9 months of my life, where I just got to play lead guitar and chainsaw for the band I grew up watching.
Now, I've got to ask a question, because the chainsaw is actually in key. And
yeah, it is.
And you use a break on that to get those different tones out of it, right? It's a chain break that you're using.
Yep.
And
that's how you get the 2 octaves. It's somewhere in A.
Yeah.
Roughly. Yeah, and that's what the lumberjack is A, and so between the 2 octaves there with the chain break, you can make a nice little melody. It works.
That is possibly one of the coolest. Okay. So we're going to have to get your number offline. Well, I've got your number. We're going to have to get your dad on, just because I want to know where that came from. That doesn't just happen. Nobody goes, hey, I think we could put a chainsaw in here.
Yeah, and did you learn on like a 12-inch first, and then
do you prefer still, or do you like Polaris? I mean, or Homelight. What do you like?
Right.
Well, I think he plays steel these days.
Steel chainsaws. I got
John Surratt. Yeah.
I mean,
what kind of pickups on that, dude?
That is one of the craziest things. And I saw it live, and I was like, everybody was, they all freak out because he's cut, he cuts tons of bar stools with it and everything. I don't mean to go off on a tangent with your dad, but this is one of the craziest things I've ever witnessed. And everybody's like, oh my God, you see that he cut up a chain? I said, does anybody not realize that the chainsaw is in key with the song? And everybody's like, really? And I'm like, it's in A. I don't know what the hell. Why doesn't anybody I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Chainsaw.
That's great.
This is not like bagpipes. This is a goddamn chainsaw.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm sorry. I just had to ask.
Right.
No, that's great. That's good.
That is too funny. So okay. So you got to play on stage with them. Were you? Did you have your own groups or bands before the whole Wayland thing?
Yeah, I toured under my own name, just Nigel Dupree Band for a while, and I released 2 records through Mighty Loud Universal, and it was fun, man, and I loved it. The only reason why I basically left it was I got interest in doing other things more behind the scenes stuff. I really love the production element of a show and what goes on behind it. And I toured with a couple of different bands doing that kind of thing, just making the day happen. And I took an interest into it. A lot of guys I grew up around are obviously, crew guys and road dogs and everything else. And so just like the art of playing, I got into the art of making the day happen. And I was actually out guitar teching for Kiefer Sutherland when Phil called, and he was like, our dude bailed. Is there any way you could come help us? And so we figured it out. And then when I realized that there was an opportunity to play, I was like, I'm going to hang here. And, but it's cool. I still tease all the time that I'm going to fire it up and do my thing, at least do a record.
Oh, cool. Do you still have access to your? Did you say there was a studio in your house?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's we have a beautiful studio, and we actually Wayland's recorded there a bunch. We just did it. We just did some new pre-production and stuff there. And anytime I'm home, which is not that often these days, because we stay out so much. Even if we're not playing, we're always doing something to further Wayland. We're always, whether it's going somewhere and splitting off, and Mitch and Phil are doing writing sessions with people, or we go and hang out with a particular person who could make the world turn. I mean, we just, every day we do something to see if we can't push it one step further. But when I am home, I do get in there and make some noises, and I'm gotten more and more familiar with the idea of Pro Tools over the last couple of years, so I've really been enjoying that.
Cool. So you said you started with them, what'd you say, a year and a half ago?
Yeah, a year and a half ago on drums, and it's like 2 years flat since I came into the group, just in the sense of being a part of the team. But
Mm-hmm.
I was doing the tech stuff, and then a few months into it, I was able to slide behind the kit, and that's got me where I am now.
That's pretty cool, man. That is pretty cool. When you were out doing the whole Nigel Dupree thing, your
Mm-hmm.
own thing, what was your and I assume you were fronting, like, vocal guitar kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, what was your rig like for that part of it?
For the longest time, I ran a JCM 900 50-watt through an orange 412 with Celestians, and I was never a big pedal guy. I would run a Boss Super Overdrive that actually I had modified with the tone and drive cut wide open.
Oh, okay.
Just bypassing the little things, and that was about it. That was the extent of my effects. And then I later, the last rig I was running was a 800 50-watt, and I was running that through the same orange 412, but I also had the Mojo Tone 212s.
Okay.
And those little box things. I had one of those because when we were on ears, I had we wanted isolation for different sound reasons or whatever. So that was my last rig, but I never ran anything crazy until I got with the Wayland guys. And when I first started playing guitar with them, I played through was it the Fender Classic 20? Is that the little combo? It's a small guy. And I got a whole crazy board of pedals with freaking octave pedal, and I got one of those really cool it sounds like like strings and stuff. I forget who makes Electro Harmonics. They make it. It's the little
the
white
Pog
pedal, and it's got like it's got the, forget what it's called. It's got the something 9.
Oh, it's
like you go through it.
It's a B9 or a C9 or a Mel 9 or a
Mel 9. It was the
Mel
Mellotron
9.
one. Yeah,
I
had one of those.
That's cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I had one of those, and a couple other little funky things that I used to cut between playing guitar parts and then keyboard type sounding stuff. And then whenever I switched over to drums, we recorded all those sounds, and I put them on little loops and trigger pads around the kit. So we still have the sounds. I just fire them off from a trigger pad now.
Cool.
So we kept the whole thing there, but that's why I still joke, like, there's a couple parts of the show where I'm like, I'm playing guitar and drums at the same time, hitting the pads and playing. But it's cool, man. It's, like I said, the whole time here has been a really cool progression, just from incorporating different parts and sounds to also figuring out how to keep it raw and organic. Because at the end of the day, Wayland's just a rock band. I mean, there's no tracks we're hiding behind or anything of the sort. So we definitely wanted to make sure we weren't just pressing play and jumping around on stage.
For sure. So you do some when you play drums, but there's a need for like a guitar riff or something. You pre-record that and put it on a pad as well. So you can do keyboard sounds or guitar sounds from the pad, I would assume.
Yep, yeah, I do that, and I have a keyboard back there. There's a couple parts in the show where I just can throw my left hand over and play some simple parts and keep the beat going with my right hand. And then but that's mainly like some little intro stuff, nothing too crazy, but everything else is on the sample pads.
Man, I hope they pay you double.
Man, I love it. I've always
yeah, I'm sure.
And yeah, I've always wanted to not always, I guess during the process of being a frontman, I realized that a frontman has a lot of things to do in between songs, like talking to the crowd, composure, all this kind of stuff. Being back behind that's so awesome, because the song finishes, you can grab a drink of water, you can wipe your face off with a towel, You can go over and tune something, change some settings. I'm like, this is awesome. Meanwhile, Mitch is stuck up there trying to make sure everyone's having a good time. I'm like, yeah, keep talking to him. This is all good.
That's awesome. That is great, man. You know, I got to ask you, because you came into the whole, sounds like came into the rock and roll world and the touring end of it kind of as a tech. So, you know, how long did you do that? And did you learn things that made the job easier for you, or things that were helpful that you think maybe some people don't know, or, you know, things that, you know, made you the go-to guy kind of thing?
Yeah, it's all, from my time of being the musician, when it came time to tech for someone, I just started to apply the, like, what would I want, or what are things to watch for? What's something typical that might happen to someone who's performing, you know? And it's hard to, like, come up with scenarios right off the bat, but I don't know. It's just kind of awareness of being of being a musician, or what position a musician is in.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is, just taking pride in setting your gear up. You know, a lot of guys don't realize you go in a hurry and throw your stuff up, and then you're wondering why it doesn't work, or why your cable's cutting in and out or whatever. And it's just taking that extra couple of seconds to coil your cord up right, or, have someone help you with an amp instead of slinging it up there yourself. The less wear and tear you can put on your gear, the better it'll be, and the longer it'll last for you.
Well, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have time to do that. Yeah, it's great. And
Yeah.
I mean, that should be planned out. You should have time to do that, instead of just everything being so much in a hurry that nothing gets done right.
Yeah, it's like anytime there's a rat's nest of cables laying around, you're like, well, you can't scratch your head and wonder why something ain't working. It's like, you got to take that extra 2 little seconds. And again, the biggest thing that I pull from when teching for someone is just kind of just trying to get in their zone, and not, it's more of a repetition thing. After 6 or 7 shows, you're going to have it down to what someone's habits are, good or bad, and then from there, you as the tech have to compensate. You have to really figure out, like, I remember one of the guys I teched for, there was a lot of capos that went on the guitars on and off. And you can have conversations all day long about the placement of a capo. Mm-hmm. Well, he where he wanted it isn't exactly where I'd put it, which is completely fine. But then I also had to realize how he was positioning his hands for his notes and his playing, because when I'd hand it to him, it'd be slightly out of tune. Well, obviously when I'm over there tuning it, I'm playing like I would play. And so it was just like one of those things where after a couple nights, you kind of just adapt and figure out what works for them, because he could throw it on, tune it up, and it was right on point. Mm-hmm. So it's just that, just taking that little bit of time to kind of learn where the player's coming from and why they do what they do. And I think it was, someone just told me this the other day. It was great. I guess someone cleaned B.B. King's guitar a long time ago. And he got really upset with him because you took 15 years of blues off of it. He didn't want the grime. He didn't want the grime and the grit taken off the guitar. That was part of his sound.
Right.
And here's this tech thinking like, "Oh, I'm working for B.B. King. It's gonna be spotless." And he's like, "You just took 15 years of blues off my guitar." So You just kind of have to wrap up around who you're working for and what kind of animal they are.
Yeah, that's funny. I was watching a documentary on Mike Campbell, and he has one guitar. It's like I don't know, 52 or 54 Telly or something like that. And he said he will not let the techs remove anything from the neck. Like this guitar, this neck never gets touched ever. And
wow,
except where the neck is almost like maple and black.
Right.
What is it's black?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jack White's kind of the same way. He's for the longest time, he had all these crazy guitars that were from different eras and made of different materials, and they were like these hard. They were really hard to keep intonated because of how they were set up from manufacturer. And then now his whole new shtick is that he wants the most perfectly balanced guitar. So he's like, I think he's playing like the Eddie Van Halen Music Man series from a couple of years ago, because it's like a perfectly intonated guitar. So it's just it's funny to see people who are like that, you know, jumping the other way, because there's so many like interviews and documentaries where he's like, you know, oh no, part of the sound is the expression of the guitar, and now he's like, I want the most balanced thing out there.
Wow.
Like,
yeah, that's
right.
called an idle mind.
Yeah, that's how he's got the money. That's how he's got the money for it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, he had the money for the cheap guitars that don't intonate, but that was part of a sound then. But you know,
yeah.
but I mean that is, there's a lot of truth to that. It's like some of that lack of perfect intonation and the way a player plays it is sometimes the magic that a track just needs. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I've heard several, and I would argue this, but I've heard several people talk about Jimmy Page's playing that way. You know, that there's these imperfections, or maybe he doesn't run something, you know, perfectly pronounced, you know, up and down the neck. And it's like, no, but that's him executing the part. And that's why everyone hears something for the first time, like Immigrant Song or something, and you go, what the heck? What is happening? You know, and it's that vibe, and it's the delivery of the performance.
Right. Right. And it's his performance, so it can't be wrong. You know, it just takes everybody else an entire lifetime to figure out how to play it the way he played it.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
It's never going to be the same. And you did raise a good point too about the capo and everything, and you handed it to the guy and it was out of tune. Sometimes a guitar that is perfectly in tune with the device that you're tuning it with, it doesn't sit right with the player.
Sure. Yep.
You know, it's all in how they play it. And sometimes it has to be a little bit off.
Yeah, and I know a few guys out there who like odd strings and stuff. Like, of course, in the Les Paul world, it's always dominantly the G string that's got some kind of aura about it. But I know some dudes, their techs will tune it up, you know, and I'll call them like bubble indicators on the digital tuners, but you know, just a hair sharp than what it should be, and then they check it through a little amp real quick, and it's spot on. And even if you intonate it all day long, you know, it's just that little bit of variance past what it's considered in tune that gives it, you know, that gives the whole guitar its proper sound for the tuning.
It's like open tunings. Open tunings, like an open G, right? Then don't you have to do something you have to raise the B or something like that? I forget what it is, because if you do it perfect, it doesn't hold. It doesn't have that actual sound to it. You know what I'm talking about?
Doesn't sound in tune.
Yeah, well, that's interesting you say that, because a lot of the times I've seen open tunings used in the studio. It's basically by ear within a certain field because of that, because you got to get the full note chord out of the guitar. Yeah. With it being opened, and I've seen so many guys, you know, just do it by ear and make sure that it's in pitch that way. That way, when they strum it all open, the tuner's saying it's in tune, but each string is within some kind of variance of what is technically in tune. So they're finicky little things. Yeah, what you know, that's why I'm enjoying drums, because you just hit them hard and then tighten the head.
Well, I mean, if you get into the math of it, that's why you have, like, you know, the Buzz Featon system, and then you have some of these tempered necks, you know, that because the tuning, because the guitar, really, the math is not correct.
No, it's not a perfectly
I'm sure our email is going to explode, but no, it's not.
No,
Okay?
guitar is not perfectly intonatable.
And if you want to hear something that sounds crazy, is listen to fretless guitars, because that they pull, you know, that's like a violin on steroids. But it's just not right.
That's what I've heard. I've heard a lot of the complaints too with those automatic tuning machines that they've come out with. You can put on the headstock.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are like, it's a hair off after so long, because they didn't factor in that the little tiny motors are going to wear out.
Yeah.
So it's not going to pull it to that same exact tension every time. So in theory, great idea. It's just like, you know, you're a little bit off from it being perfected, because after a couple weeks of abuse on the road, that tiny little plastic thing in there isn't going to hold it at the right little spot, but the computer says it will. It's one of those things. So, well,
I think it's safe to say that great idea, it helped the company go Chapter 11.
Pretty much. Let's put these on all of our guitars. Raise the price $1,000.
Have everybody take them off.
And the people that did buy the guitars, when they got them home, they took them off.
Yeah.
It's like, man, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point? Learn how to tune your own guitar, people.
How about this?
Lesson number 1.
Stop screwing with the sauce. Yeah. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to put anything in the crust of the pizza because there's nothing wrong with the pizza.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's right? Actually, I love that, because I mean that's where I come from on all things music is, just keep it as simple as possible, and then from there add in the little detail work. It's like if you're learning how to play guitar, you don't need a full stack and a board full of pedals. Just start with the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Work up to the rest.
Your dad, who he is, you have been grown up with a Les Paul shoved into a Marshall, and that's about it.
Yeah,
I mean that is Jackal.
Oh yeah, that is 100%.
That's a lot of bands.
Yeah,
that's a lot of bands, and thankfully
we just saw Clutch for the first time live, and those dudes. I mean, that is straightforward as it gets. I mean, they come out and kill it, man. It was really cool just to I feel like I hadn't seen a band like that in a while that is just so true guitar amp like Jackal, just straight to it and get out there and play your songs. It's cool.
I think when it all comes down to it, it's talent. And the talent, all the stuff in the world isn't going to make you. Who's the guy that plays for Red Hot Chili Peppers? The kid that took over. I don't. What's his name?
I don't know his name, but yeah.
Well, I mean,
he's got a pedal board that looks like he's landing airplanes.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, that's not Frusciante.
No, it's not Frusciante.
He was gone and then back and gone.
Yeah, it's the kid that took his place. And I'm going.
It's like Klinghoffer or something. Klingenhofer or something like that. Yeah.
And it's like,
I think
you're in the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That whole band was built off of the premise of, I think, a wah pedal, a Marshall,
and a clean strap
and a
tone.
Fender.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and he's got like I think it's like, hey, we gave him $1 million and he came in with 4 pedal boards.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I guess he's trying to recreate the albums, as they sit, because they do a lot of tweaking stuff in the studio.
But it's
still, as much as they do in the studio, it still pretty much sounds like a freaking guitar.
Yeah,
it just does.
You see them live, and with Frusciante, if you see any of that old footage, dude, it's kind of straight in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like Hendrix a little bit. Because you get that Marshall Fender Strat thing going on, and now Hendrix had some crazy, stuff going on in some of his sounds. But as far as like really outside of what do you have, a Univibe, right?
Mm-hmm. Univibe, Fuzz Face, and the Wah.
Face, yeah.
Done.
I mean, it was nothing.
So that's kind of like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Same thing. I mean, he had a few little things here and there that he'd throw in for effects, but other than that, I mean, it was just a straight rock and roll tone.
Now I got a story for you, Nigel. My partner here, who is very humble, he used to do a lot of work for the pedals, right? Jeff, for Stevie, right? Didn't you do some stuff with his pedals?
Well, yeah, I kind of came out with a reissue Fuzz Face before even Dunlop did it. God knows how many years ago. And then, they were first. And Renee used to get the boards off me because I had the exact board layout that I had circuit boards for that. Man. I was making. Renee used to get boards from me and rebuild Stevie's stuff when the boards got intermittent, because you can only solder on those things a couple of times before the traces just lift off. So
But the big story, though, the bigger story, is that you built Stevie an amp that he used that nobody seems to know where the hell that thing is.
Amp and a couple of cabinets. They have to be in the storage locker.
Jimmy's not hiding it.
Jimmy is hiding it.
Jimmy, I think, wants to retire to Jamaica or something.
Yeah, that one was a one of a kind. I guarantee it's got to be in the storage locker, along with the two one of a kind cabinets.
Yeah,
that is too cool, man. That's awesome. What a fun history fact. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I like to share that story with everybody because they're like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." And I'm like, "What do you think the price tag on the amp is?" Because Legends amp, it's only one of a kind, built by a Legend amp builder guy. I don't know. See, Jeff, I'm putting it in a crazy number here. And, because it's like, if you own a motorcycle that was ridden by Steve McQueen, it could be the most generic motorcycle on the planet. It'll sell for $1 million, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So what is that? Where is
I will find it someday. I'll have to get let into the storage locker at some point.
We're going to have to work on that,
Yeah, we absolutely
we got to research that out.
We tried. We're going to try again. So,
that'd be killer.
Yeah. Nigel, I guess, we'll go to your form of instrument now, at least what you're playing currently in this band. What kind of kits do you prefer?
Right now, I am playing a vintage Ludwig Gold Sparkle kit that I pieced together off of Reverb. Basically, I got on there, and there was a 26-inch Gold Sparkle kick drum for sale, and I was like, "You don't see 26-inch Gold Sparkle Ludwig."
Ooh, nice!
So I snagged it. Yeah, so I snagged it, and I'm like, "Okay, now what?" So I'm like, "Well, the rack tom I want a 12." Like a 12 by 10 preferably, and I kid you not, one 12 by 10 for sale. And I'm like, well, then that just means 14, 16. And I found each drum in a different state, all within the same small bracket from like 60. Well, I think it's some odd year that they changed the stamps from like blue to red or red to blue. I forget. I looked it up when I was getting into it. I forget now the fine details of the stamping and whatever. But I found 4 drums within the same little gap of time, all for sale on Reverb. And and I pieced the kit together off that, and I just love it, man. It's just got such a nice just tone to it. The resonance and on an EQ spectrum, it sits really nice across the band, and I love it, man. It's really cool. I play Sabian cymbals. Nice. And I just got officially hooked up with them a month or so ago, and they've been so good to me, and I've played them forever. A couple guys that I really look up to in the Atlanta scene, Mike Froge, who was Black Label Society, was one of the biggest bands he was in. His band that he broke with in his younger days was called Double Drive, and they did really well for a good little hot minute. And he's played with several other people since. He's a Sabian guy. Another good friend of mine, Garrett, is a Sabian. So, of course, when I got behind the kit, I was like, Sabian. And then when I was able to get hooked up with them, I added in some little splashes and chinas and that fun kind of thing that I was able to get a hold of. And I've been on the head side of things. I'm all Remo except for my kick drum head. The 26 is obviously ridiculously stupid huge. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's not the most preferred. Like if I go in the studio, I'm looking for like a 2022. Yeah. Just to get the proper sound. But what I found was Aquarian makes this Super Kick 10 head, and it's got like the thickest ring of foam you've ever seen around it. And that gave me a lot of control over getting that 26 to have some good punch and oomph to it. And then, but other than that, like I said, it's all Remos on the tops, and then I got that Aquarian on my kick.
So
very cool.
So I have a little bit of a story about a friend of mine who's kind of like this. He's really obsessed. And a great guy, used to be my boss when I was actually a civil engineer. It's really a strange story, but he in the 70s, late 60s and 70s, he played in a band in Baltimore, and he had a Ludwig set that he bought brand new. And this was probably, early 60s when he purchased the drum sets, a little 5-piece set, right? Mm-hmm. He has every piece of it in mint condition with the cases and every head that he has ever put on that drum.
Wow.
And I said, and it's a Ludwig. And it's that sparkle. It's that, whatever that flavor was back then, that silver, I don't know, And I was and his name is Dennis. And if he's listening, hey, Dennis. But I was like, what do you think this thing is worth? And he goes, I don't know, man. He goes, I never really thought of selling it. And I was like, you've got every piece? He goes, I've got the original stands. I've got the original cymbals that I bought back then. Wow. And I'm not sure what they are. I never got into the real heavy details, but I remember him just telling me going,
I'm guessing Zildjian probably. Back then.
I couldn't imagine anybody else back then, right? Right. Most of those companies didn't even exist.
Right.
And
no, I think Zildjian held it for almost like 30 years or something crazy.
And he's like telling me this, and he's going, and I know this guy. He's down to the minute detail. Everything is like impeccable. Like he loses his mind if things kind of like get out of sorts, right?
Right.
And he's like, oh yeah, it's just like the day it was new. He goes, even the cases. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
That is really cool.
It was a pretty.
And he actually played out with them.
Played out with them for years.
Wow.
And then just one day, set it up in his bedroom, and then it went from the bedroom into the attic, and his kids never had the interest or anything like that. And
wow,
too bad.
That's cool.
I said you could sell this thing for a good penny. I said, but then it would probably be quickly destroyed.
Sure, yeah. We just Atlanta for the longest time had Atlanta Pro Percussion, and the gentleman who owned it, he just. I don't know what got him into it, but he had the storefront, and he slowly bought the other retail spaces next to him as time went on, and just filled them full of drum kits. They weren't even for sale or for the public to come and look at. And when he just closed out the whole building and everything this last year, and there was like original mint condition Rogers kits. There was like, second. Some kind of like little messed up run, 1 series, Ludwigs or Pearls. Yeah, just all this rare stuff in there. And for like 48 hours, Facebook was just going crazy with everyone going, we just found this kind of snare. We just found this. This hasn't been, no one's seen one of these in working condition since, 62 and like all sorts of crazy stuff. It's like, wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's different. They sound different. I mean, it's just something about the age and the wood, and it's just like a guitar. And they actually
the wood has dried out, and it's, people say it has a lot to do with slow growth wood, like naturally grown wood, as opposed to the faster stuff that they've engineered now. And the rings in the wood are different, and there's a lot of variances.
Oh yeah, I mean, even down to the different, they changed the machinery that's working on this stuff too over the years, and that has such a huge, factor into what the end result of the sound is, because it's, even though they always think it's the same or more efficient, it's going to alter it in some way.
Sure, and if you take any of the hand process out of it, that's going to alter it too. I mean, it's the same way with guitars. The wood is different, the processes are different.
Yeah, so, I mean, your metal guys, and, we've had this conversation 1,000 times, Jeff. The metal guys with the really crazy high gain triggered sounds, that doesn't really play in too much of a factor. But when it starts getting more backed off, more of the, either the like AC/DC type kind of distortion where it's more of just an amp cranked, and then even into, the guys, the older guys that don't use a lot of gain, then the guitar does have, more of a factor
big time.
of the overall tone, because those microphones called pickups are doing what they're supposed to be doing and not just acting as a trigger.
Right.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think as soon as you put an EMG in anything, you don't really have to worry about what the wood's like.
That's for sure.
Just add another 9 volt. Add another 9 volt, and you're good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess our good buddies from Fishman, though, they're Fluence pickups, even though they're running by a battery. They do seem to kind of capture.
They're different. That's a whole different technology.
I was going to say it's a whole different ballgame, because we actually had Fishman's put in all of Kiefer Sutherland's acoustics that are on the tour with them. and I was just blown away with the detail and the expression of those little things, man. It's amazing what they've figured out for an acoustic.
They kind of know what they're doing up there in Connecticut.
Yeah, they got something figured out.
So what was Kiefer like to work with?
Yeah, man.
He's amazing. Amazing guy. He's one of the biggest fans of music that's out there, and considering not only his success, but that he comes from a family of greats. He's just the most humble, down to earth person. I think I've never ate so much McDonald's in my life. And that just tells you how chill. I mean, literally, it's like, anybody hungry? Yeah, there's a McDonald's. And I'm like, that's so awesome. Like, you would expect anyone else like that to be like, oh, well, we're going to go to the Morton Steakhouse.
Right.
Like that's where we're going to grab lunch for $400. No, like he's a total grab a burger and a Coke kind of guy. And
cool.
I'll never forget one of my first days out on the road, they brought the rider into the dressing room, all the stock, the chips, the fruit and all that kind of stuff. And there was a bag of gummy bears. And I'm like, oh, cool, gummy bears. And I'm one of the younger people in the whole thing. So the last thing I'm thinking is Boss Man's the one putting the gummy bears on the rider. So I opened the gummy bears and I'm eating them. And his right hand chick, Beth, comes in and she goes, she's English. So she goes, who ate the gummy bears? And I'm like, I did. What's wrong with it? She's like, those are for Kiefer. And I'm like, what? Kiefer wants gummy bears? I mean, he's just as chill of a dude as it gets. And he's got a great band. The guitar player is, you remember the band Dada?
Sure.
Yeah, I've heard that.
The guitar player, they had a song. It was going to Disney in the 90s. They did some late night shows, but he's got the guitar player from Dada, Michael Gurley. He's a beast. I mean, just insane, underrated guitar player. I mean, he's amazing. All he's ever played is a Strat, and he's just one of those kind of guys.
Relation to James?
James Gurley?
Yeah.
No,
probably be his dad if there was a relationship. Wow.
No, I don't think that is. And then he's got this killer chick drummer, Jess Calcaterra. She was in a punk band called Billy Boy and Poison that was to Kiefer's label. And then his bass player and guitar player kind of came with a package deal. Two dudes who moved out to LA to obviously pursue music. And the one guy's a singer-songwriter, the other guy's a bass player extraordinaire, and that's how they got pulled into that whole group as well. So he's got a really cool thing going, and they got another record they're putting out, and it was cool. I miss it every day. They're in Europe right now. They did like 2 months in Europe, and it hurts my soul to watch, but but I'm excited to get over there because Wayland will soon be in Europe, and I'll get my time, but. Him and his whole camp they're great. And, he lived right there on the bus with us. And never once did you think that you were traveling around with, one of the most highest paid actors and notable people in the industry. I mean, it's quite amazing.
Yeah.
How simple and humble he is given his life and his family. It's really cool.
That is so cool.
I mean, that's great to hear. That really is great to hear. That he's just such a chill guy.
He's one of those guys. You have to be careful. Like if you're like, oh, I need to get this. I'm saving up for it. What are you saving up for? Nothing. No, what is it? And he immediately is like, what do you need? Let's get it. And I'm like, no, we're just talking about a cool guitar. You got to be careful because he's just like, what is it about? Well, let's get it done. And he's just the sweetest, kindest dude. I mean, that's why he started that label, Ironworks, with no other intentions of just giving up-and-coming artists a home and somewhere to be creative. He had a big, beautiful studio in California that was an Ironworks shop formerly, and Rocco DeLuca, Billy Boy and Poison, Honey, Wayland. There's a singer-songwriter guy named Jim Stapley who was amazing, and all these artists have gone on to still do things. Most of them you can still go and find in their own tours. They're under new labels. They're in other bands, and that's all he wanted to do was just afford people an opportunity that, doesn't usually come about. And it was a beautiful thing while it lasted. And then he basically just took that whole concept and energy and decided to do his own band. And it's really cool, man. They put it out as country. I don't really call it country. It's American singer-songwriter music. It can sound country at times, but it's just straightforward great songwriting.
So
very
awesome,
cool.
dude.
Yeah, that's great to hear, man. That's great. And how cool that you got to work with him for a while. That's really good. And then turned it down to play drums in Wayland.
Look at
that.
Wow.
You know, I mean, there's nothing like being on stage. You know, I'd probably done tech stuff for a handful of years. I can't really think right now what the exact timeline was, but for a couple of years I did the tech thing, and then I just felt naturally I got pulled into this for a reason. You know, and I had the two options on the table at one point, and it was like, well, you know, I do love performing and playing and being creative, and Wayland is that for me. It's such an equal distribution band in the sense of making everything turn. Each one of us holds a different job outside of our instrument job. I do handle the production and technical side of stuff along with Dallas, our front of house guy. Him and I cover that. Dean is the tour manager. He organizes every day down to the most micromanaged little thing of time. Mitch handles all the promotions and marketing and makes sure that stuff's going down. And then Phil's kind of oversees the whole shebang from booking to long-term strategy and that whole bit. So it's cool. Everyone has little outskirt jobs that we handle. And, but then it also within the band, being creative is about the same. It's all just who's got what ideas, let's suss them and sort them and pick the best one.
Very cool. So it runs like a democracy too. That's awesome, man. Wow.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool thing. And I've been around so many bands my whole life, and I don't think I've ever been a part of something that's so healthy and fun. There's usually some little small disturbance in the force or some kind of, underlying debauchery. And in this, knock on wood, in this band, we're all happy and thankful to be out here playing music, you know?
Wow.
Well, that is cool.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Like I tell everybody, Nigel, and we sincerely mean it, much continued success to you, and your band and your endeavors, and safe travels. And we're going to have to keep our eye out for Wayland.
Well, hell, I'm going to have to keep in contact with you, brother, because we'd love to talk to your dad one day. Well,
you got my number. Yeah, you got my number. Shoot me a text, and I know we'd love to stay in touch with you. All the guys are excited. I think y'all talked with Mitch earlier today, so.
Yeah.
We did.
We're killer. Yeah, we're excited to have this relationship, and hopefully we can meet up with you guys at a live show and you can see what it's all about.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward
love
to
your
it.
Stuff.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on the itinerary, man. If you get to the Northeast close enough, we'll give you a shout and come by and say hey.
Come on with it. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Hey, man. Thank you.
Nigel, thank you very much, and safe travels, my friend.
Cool. Good deal. Talk to you guys soon.
Take care. Thanks, man. And there you have the story.
I had no idea his dad was Jesse James. That's so crazy. That kid has gobs of knowledge. I mean, that is amazing. First off, that he plays all those instruments, and he's got to play them well. Absolutely. And the tech background. Look, people, this is what we've said I don't know how many times. When it comes to a gig like that, and you can be a tech, you say yes, because there's a slight chance that you're going to be the next guy in line. You know? And look, it's I go back to when James Hetfield cooked his arm on that stage that one night. When they had to finish that tour, he couldn't play guitar. And the guitar tech was the guitarist for it wasn't Armored Saint. It was like King Diamond or something. He was he was in a metal band, but obviously when they weren't touring, he was a guitar tech.
Sure.
Well, he knew all the Metallica songs. This guy got to play on stage with Metallica and finish that tour, and I'm sure got paid healthy for it.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, whenever you hear this and you think, oh, he's a guitar tech, whatever, it's like, no. Don't dismiss that. That is actually a very important job and it could be lucrative for you.
Absolutely. And, that guy could play an instrument quite possibly, and a lot of times better than you or I. And, there's a good chance that they're a multi-instrumentalist, they're a utility guy. And this is just what they're doing right now.
Exactly.
Because they're making money in the music industry, and they're on the road. They're doing what they want to do in one form or another. So, don't just pigeonhole yourself, man. Somebody says, hey, man, you seem to set up your guitars well, or you seem to know your amplifiers well, and you can fix them. You want to come out on tour and do this for a month or whatever. Just go. Yeah. And, it's either going to suck and you're never going to do it again because, it was bad and you didn't do a good job, or a couple of things are going to suck and you're going to learn real quick how to make them not suck the next day, and that just benefits everybody, including you.
Well, my son is looking at that kind of opportunity right now, and
there you go. Exactly.
And he's kind of stoked, and I said, what are you going to be doing? He goes, I have no idea. And I said, well, that's a little scary, isn't it? And he goes, well, they know what I can do sound-wise. He said, hopefully it'll be something with sound. And I said, well, look, I've only...
he may wear more than one hat. Most
you never
touring
know.
Guys do.
Yeah, and I said to him, look, we're 230-some episodes. I said, I think I know the formula. And he goes, what's that? And I said, don't be a jerk and say yes a lot. Even if you don't know it, just, you got to throw something at it. And he was like, oh, okay.
That's it.
Just I said, don't lie. Don't start fights with guys in the band. Just be cool and keep your eyes open and things may pop up for you. And I said, that's it. That's all you can do. How cool is that,
I mean, what was my text response to you? And so it starts.
It's all. It's that little tiny pebble that turns into a giant boulder eventually.
That's it.
Look, hey, our good buddy Brad Divins, I see posts every day, and it's like, well, I'm in Peru. We played for 300,000 people last night, and it's like, are you kidding me? I know he's got to be like, I got to get off the road, but when you have those opportunities, you got to take them because, he's working for big money guys,
Yeah, right.
It's not slouch stuff. So, and he's good at what he does because he wouldn't get that call.
No. And he wasn't always as good as he is now. No. And he didn't always do what he does now.
No. God, there was days I'm sure he probably contemplated what he was doing because they were living out of a van.
Oh, totally, man. It's like, I'm going to go sell used cars,
Wrathchild America and Souls at Zero, that was a working, that was life on the road.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't imagine, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
What?
I ain't got nothing.
Well, then I think it's time to stop, So
until next time, my friend.
Well, we'll drop another boulder on you.
Boy, that went nowhere quick. I'm Mick Marcelino.
That's right. And I got nothing either. I'm Jeff Butler.
And we're always saying,
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmpsandAxes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage ampsandaxescast.com. Thanks for listening.